Alrighty, guys, welcome to the podcast again. Today we have Glenn Edley, who is someone who actually helps me a lot with my email marketing business. So it's really good to have you on here, Glenn. Dude, tell us about your agency, where you're from, what you do, all that good stuff.
So, Glenn Edley, I've been email marketing since 2001. So we're in 2023 when we're recording this. So, I'm old. I've been email marketing at spike.co.nz. And, I'm a really passionate email marketer. Like, I love this stuff. Like, when I saw email marketing, I thought to myself, here is a way where a person can do their normal stuff. So say for a real estate agent, list and sell, and then stay top of mind with hundreds, if not thousands of people. And I just went, this is the best thing ever, the best channel ever. And so, yeah, I've been doing it ever since. And, our whole thing is like converting your customers to cash is what it comes down to.
Well, let's break into that. What do you think makes email the best channel ever? And I mean, obviously, we're both email marketers. I agree with you. But yeah, man, like what puts it above your socials, your newspapers, your stuff like that? What's the point of difference, and what's the value at?
So it's owned channel, right? It's an owned channel. That is the most important thing. It's the channel that you can have basically private one-to-one conversations with thousands or millions of people, right? Because when you send out an email, the way to think about it is actually you're writing to your perfect customer. So you're sending deals to your best customer. You're sending offers to your best customer. So the thing that you can think about it, instead of one-to-many, which it is, but actually think about email as one-to-one in your language that you use, you'll get far better results. So it's owned, like you own it. It's your database. When you go to sell your business, it's where the value is. So I think a lot of people forget to keep in contact with their customers. So they build up this database of, lots of customers, or 10,000 as we were discussing before. Never email them, right?
Mm-hmm.
It becomes a real issue when you start. But if you have been in constant contact with those people, then you've stayed top of mind with them, man, your business is worth, way more than just if you've got a customer database you've never spoken to.
Yeah.
So, email, it's great at two things: staying top of mind and prompting an action.
Mm-hmm.
And if you simplify it down to that, you can actually create really good emails that get read and keep you top of mind. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's simple. It's a simple thing: top of mind, prompt an action, and you'll be gold.
Yeah, 100%. I think with the B2B space as well. So, I mean, with email marketing, you can kind of fit into a few different categories, but it's the two overarching ones more often than not are like B2B and then direct to consumer. I mean, I found with the B2B, and keen to hear your thoughts on this, but when it comes to B2B, you're actually more, I have found that you're more just promoting that top of mind authority rather than prompting quicker actions. Have you found that as well? It's really just trying to be like a thought leader in the B2B space.
Yeah, I would agree with that. If B2B is about being ready for when someone needs you, it can be about proving your value. So a lot of the times, you've got an agency, right? And you're providing a service, and that service, you in doing that service, you have some communication with the customer, but mostly you're just, in fact, in B2B, we'll call them clients, right? Because it's a relationship. Email is really good at just keeping that relationship going whilst you're on calls trying to get new business, right? Or you're doing the job. Because over the years, I've found that like you're paying someone money, and then you're constantly having to prove your value.
Yes.
So with B2B, that seems to be more important. And so you can just, prove that value by, for example, if you send them a monthly report or you have a dashboard that you've set up to them, that, by the way, no customer is ever going to log into your dashboard, really, right?
Mm-hmm.
Send them a link to that dashboard, or you send them a quick report and then a link to their full report, they see the value coming in, and they might not look at that report every single month, but in between those client check-ins, you're going to be providing this value, and they'll just keep going, oh yeah, that's right, that's why we pay them, whatever X amount a month.
Yeah, it's a touch point, right? That's such a good. I think, I'm sure you and I both had this where you hire an agency and then you don't know what the hell they're doing for a whole month, and then the invoice comes, and then that's when the report kind of comes in. It's a great. I haven't really thought about it from it's ironic. I haven't thought about doing it from like an email perspective. What I've done is I just have weekly reports that I do for all my clients, like a video report, and what I found is it really is. I think it's less about what you're saying in those reports, and it's more just showing that you're on their account and that you're working on things and that you're here and that things are happening. And like the attrition rate for the turnover rate is it's just barely there, right? Which is to be expected for a smaller agency. But with email, I'm sure you could get elements of that. Just touch points, kind of regular touch points. Like, hey, this is what we're doing. Here we go. Yeah, that's a great. I really like that.
Your video reporting idea, because I do that as well, and I think like to spend 2 minutes actually taking them through their report.
Yes.
Going to value that a lot.
Yeah.
So, just taking that time, and it is scalable. Like, it's not that hard to do. I actually do it for proposals as well, right? So I'll talk someone through the proposal on a Loom,
and then do a video after.
Yeah. So and send it to them, right? So they've got their proposal, they've got a link to me talking about the proposal. Takes them 5 or 10 minutes depending how complicated the proposal is. And I'm more like, and in that video I can do a call to action as well, right?
So. Yeah, 100%. No, that's great. I guess kind of swinging back to the old email marketing, and I think in our space, whenever I tell someone I do email marketing, they instantly think scam, spam, or it's crazy. I would say business owners are less so, but the average Joe 100%. It's frustrating. And then you also get the thing of it doesn't work. Like those things never work, I'm like, let me show you these numbers. But what kind of misconceptions do you kind of come up against in the email marketing space, especially when, you're just not necessarily trying to sell your services, but explain the value of it?
So I think some of the biggest, it needs to be a newsletter. Like it needs to be a long email. I think misconception amongst many people, as soon as you say email marketing or email newsletter, they instantly think something really long.
Yeah.
Like especially for B2B, like we're talking about, and then because they think to themselves, oh my gosh, I have to create all this content just for email. It gets really, really hard for people, and so they don't start. Or they do it and then they just fall off So, it doesn't need to be a long newsletter, and in fact most people are only swiping with their thumb about 3 swipes. So people are busy. Keep it short, keep it regular, and you'll win, basically.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of times I've had great results from like an email that's under 150 words,
Yeah, exactly.
And people's attention spans are getting shorter and shorter, right? Like, I mean,
they are.
It's a problem. It really is. What I'm keen to hear about, because you've been in the game for so long, it's like, direct to consumer email marketing is kind of want to talk a little bit more about.
Yep.
How have you seen it change? How have you seen it evolve? Has it really, I feel like the fundamentals have stayed the same for the most part, with a few flashy lights here and there. What's your thoughts on that?
With D2C, it's interesting when you see big brands start to actually do that themselves. Like they used to sell through retailers and then they go like direct to consumer themselves.
Yeah.
They have such a good relationship when they do that because they've already got customers who love their brands or who love their brand, right? So, but I think email for D2C, it's going to continue to be the best owned channel there is, right? It is going to be the #1 channel because it's private, it's one-to-one, you own it. It doesn't matter what algorithm is working, you can send it. So what I am seeing though is around like design and the look and feel, right? Because you sent me some questions and it's prompted my thinking about this, is that there's like you wrote in your question, with the current emphasis on visual content, how important is design? And I think it's really important, right? Like super important. But the thing is, what I'm seeing is that people aren't designing for their customers. So this is where I'm seeing D2C is getting caught up in this image heavy thing, using platforms that they can do that in. But the thing is that when the customer gets it on the other end, it looks terrible. So what I mean by that is like, I think GIFs are going to be important. We're never going to see video and email because it's just a massive security issue. And yes, there's some HTML tags that you can use, but considering that most of the world uses Gmail, no one's seeing that, right? So you should have links to your YouTube videos, so they show down the bottom. But one thing I keep seeing is people like building their emails too long. They're more than 102 kilobytes, right?
Yeah, and it clips.
They clip. Like just things like that are a turnoff. So the issue is that I'm seeing people not actually looking at their stats about what people are viewing their emails on. So if you are like, one of my customers is like predominantly like 85% mobile. So that means that I can actually look at that and really, I can go, okay, so if they're viewing most emails on mobile first, then we can actually design quite an image heavy in a way email, right? Because it's going to look good. However, if you're, we're still going to design it in a way with alt tags and design that without the images, it still looks good, because that's important for desktop. So I think as it moves on, people are using these platforms. I just had an email come in this morning, and I'm like, it's a very pretty looking email. It's not going to sell anything. And the reason is because if you're using images and you don't have your call to action in text, and you don't have like your buttons set up properly, and it's just not going to work. So it's just going to look pretty. So yeah, I think like with direct to consumer, like I'm still seeing the same issues I've been talking about for a long time. But I know where you kind of wanted to go with this, because I was reading through your questions. And one thing I'm seeing is that the tools have way better segmenting and targeting, engineering in them. And I think that's probably the word for it for me. They've been engineered for direct to consumer.
Yeah.
And there's some other older platforms out there that weren't set up for that, right? So, that is the difference between Mailchimp and Klaviyo, for example, is that Mailchimp is a great platform for certain businesses. But if you're an e-commerce platform, like running Shopify, I think it's pretty hard to not use Klaviyo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
You're actually missing a trick. And now they've just put out reviews, which price wise they're quite competitive with some of those
Yotpo's. Yeah,
way cheaper than Yotpo, man.
Yeah.
Way cheaper. And but like was it the smart one or something? So Smile and things like that. I think they're targeting their prices. So anyway, that is where like I see email going in that space. There's more targeting and things like that can be done, although potentially like you can pick up customers in more places, like browser abandonment, and you can really think about what you're going to say to people. But do people think about what they're going to say? No, they don't. This
Mm-hmm.
is the issue, Gavin. Like, people aren't hiring agencies who have success with these to actually write the email that they need to get the result. So they think, wow, I can set up all these automations, right? Cool, I can do all this stuff. And, but they're actually, they haven't asked the right questions of their customers. They haven't gone through their data. They haven't like looked at what their customer or their audience actually wants to hear from them. So, and they never do very good welcome series. I hardly ever see a good welcome series, like, so that there's a lot of tricks being missed because basically they choose a platform and then they don't use it to its fullest extent, right?
Yeah, I think back to your welcome series comment, I totally agree. I think, something that we've been seeing a lot of success with is just educating. Like, and it's taking fundamentals from like a B2B perspective and really having like a nice split between 50% informational, 50% product focus, probably even going a bit more on like the actual informational educational side of things, And like we see, there's like examples for brands that are out there. I mean, you can break down the angles that you can educate a million different ways. We have a dog wear company that we work with, and we give tips on how to walk your dog, tips on how to feed your dog, vet checkups, and they have like over 1,000 SKUs. 100%, we could do a campaign every single day on like a new product, sure, but that's not what the readers want. It's coming back to what you were saying, right? It's like understanding what the demographic wants, what they want to see, and I think a lot of people are on the notion it's like, well, I need to sell with these campaigns. It's like, well, if you take an informational one, pop it out, I guarantee you the sale focus email is going to perform better with that goodwill that's been built up from the educational side of things. Yeah, 100%. And I think as well, man, the the optimization side of things, like down to mobile, the most common one I see is emails that have been built entirely out of images, and they're not optimized for mobile. So you open it up on your mobile device, and you can't actually read any of the texts that's actually on there, right? So it's it's not ideal, and not only that, it's also going to probably land in some unhappy folders in people's inboxes.
It
But
so is. It so is. It just, to me, it just shows a lack of what am I going to say? I was going to say empathy, but a lack of understanding about your customer. Like,
totally,
you just got really excited about a new platform and shoved it in, and
yeah,
they just require thought. Like
consideration and thought, yeah, totally.
yeah,
I
they
mean,
do. Always be testing, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
always be testing, and that's why agencies. I always used to say that I can take you from zero to where, say a competitor is in 12 months. Or you can do it by yourself and you'll never get there. And they'll be like, oh, okay. Because I can, right? Like, because I've got all this build up behind us. So it's like, and you can as well. You can say like, hey, based on all of this stuff now that we've done, I can take you from zero to like, doing really, really well and getting this return off your emails and things in 6 months, or I can get you up and running with all your automations in 2 weeks. Like, I think like that shortcut to actually making money from your customers, like more money. Like I say, like, convert your customers into cash.
yeah,
That's why we're all in business, right?
yeah.
So
It's time save. It's a time save, right?
It's a
Definitely.
time saver, man. And if you can actually like put that into an equation for a customer and say, or you can say like, here's how much time it's going to save you. Like, yeah, it's interesting. You can get a lot of yeses on that.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I've got 3 proposals to do today, so wish me luck. I'm gonna channel some of that energy in.
I hate proposals, man. I gotta say it. Like,
yeah,
if you read a book by Dan Martell called "Buy Back Your Time,"
yeah,
he has a characteristic in there called the staller. And oh man, when it comes to proposals, like, I definitely am a staller. I'll do it in the last minute.
you'll put it together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not the best. I've got a nice little template that I can follow through, nice and easy. But Yeah, it comes back to just having like a solid offer and kind of dialing that in.
Yeah, and if it's complicated, right?
Oh, they don't. Yeah, yes. Like, well,
And the thing is, for me, is I've realized I almost need to record my, well, I do sometimes now, record my conversations with them when I'm talking to them,
yeah,
because then I can transcribe that or go through it and say, oh, what did I say? And then make it easy to put my proposals together, because when you're selling on the phone or on that call, you say all the right things, right? Because you're listening to them. And then
yeah,
when you go back to the proposal, you're sitting at this like template or a blank piece of thing, and you're like, oh man, what did I say?
yeah.
Like, so
No, yeah, totally. It's yeah, like why? Like, yeah. Having a recording's huge. Yeah, I need to get better at doing that too. But there's note taking apps out there. But
by the way, I just thought about that then. I have done it in the past and it worked really, really well. But that's something, yeah. But like I mentioned in our pre-recording, is like, I think having a single offer that you can just get really, really good at selling
yeah,
is going to save you a heap of time. And also, like, because you're so good at it, then you'll get your customers' results even faster.
yeah. Do you feel like in B2B when it comes to email, in B2B, I have never tried to sell a service on email. I've only ever tried to get a call. Have you seen that yourself as well?
I have, but we have tried to sell services on email, but they're always followed up by a call.
Yes.
So there's a call in there somewhere. And then why we use the email is because then the caller can relate to the email. Did you get my emails? Or did you get my email about that? My dad actually told me a really interesting story about this, which applies to email. A long time ago, he would send letters, right? So he would write letters. And the first letter would be like just an introduction. Here's who we are. The second one would be, hey, hope you're well, like, and you got my introduction. And he would just go more into here's who we are. And the last one would be like some more information, or, just he kept it pretty light, but it was like just here's our solution for you, right? And then he would call them generally, or they would come back to him. And my dad was a very successful salesman. But he said, like, he loves email marketing, right? Because here's a way where you can do it at a far bigger scale than he could back in the day, right? So, but it's the same thing. So with B2B, it's like, hey, yeah, like we talked about cold email. Most cold emailers, they get a database, they've got a template, and they fire it out. And because they're Americans, they've got massive databases that they can just burn, right? We can't do that in New Zealand or even Australia. You have to be more careful. Like, you really need to like know who this person is. And actually, when you find, so it's almost a warm email really by the time you send it, right? Because you've looked at their LinkedIn profile, you've maybe followed them on LinkedIn, you've connected with them, like before you've even sent them an email, you know about them. So to me, like, cold email can turn into warm email with just a bit of background checking and a little bit of extra effort, right? And it's going to get a far better result, because for B2B, you're generally having to make you need to make appointments to either get online, get on a call, or you need to go and see them in person, depending on what you're selling, right? So yeah, I think just spending a bit more time means you never really have to cold email. It's more, let's call it a warm one. Follow it up with an email. Mate, we sold pumps like with email, and then for Grundfos. And we sent it all to these, what we did is we sent these emails out to all these plumbers, and we invited them all to these sausage sizzles and morning coffees. And then we had several emails, like, because some of them didn't use Grundfos pumps, or because we knew who they were, right? There's about 3,000 plumbers around the country. And then we would follow them up. And actually it was like, it was so successful that they like sold out of all the pumps that they had in the country before we'd even finished all the road shows.
Yeah.
So, and just keeping top of mind. But now they've got this really good database of all these plumbers that they just keep in contact with, right? And say, g'day, well, here's our latest pump, or here's where we're running, you know, we're in your area, because we segmented it by all the Chesters.
Mm-hmm. So what's a Chester? Sorry, Chester.
Chester's Plumbing.
Okay, yeah, okay.
A supply where they all go and hang out, right?
Yeah.
So very simple segmentation just by nearest store.
Yeah.
But like we did that through the invites and yeah, built a really solid database.
Yeah, that's the way to do it, right? I mean, and it's probably like a lot of it now is somewhat automated too. It's like heavy workload in the front, but then once you get the groundwork done, you're up and away.
Yeah, man. Once you've tested like the emails and the content and that, like you can just start sending it to other people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Works well.
Most definitely. Well, Glenn, we've got a couple minutes left before we wrap up. Is there anything else? I mean, obviously we had a bunch of questions that we could have gone over, but time is of the essence. Is there anything else you want to mention? Something, you know, around the email marketing space before we kind of sign off?
Do you know what? I think there's two things a couple of questions that I really liked of yours, right?
Yeah.
I think, and I'll just go into one of them, but I think you said, like, you asked me, like, what was the most automation flow like that we've ever set up? And I was like, man, so that's a good question, right? Because I've done a lot.
Yeah.
But I thought, well, if surveys count,
yes,
I once did a sex survey for Durex.
Okay.
And it was huge, man. Like it was massive, right?
Yeah.
And at the time, I think John Key got voted like New Zealand's sexiest man.
Yeah.
But what we did with that automation is, like, once we'd run it through, we then use those people as device testers, and we ran this whole thing about Durex wanted to repackage repackage everything. Mm-hmm. And so then we used that database to actually test packaging ideas and get feedback from them. Mm. It was really, really interesting, right? So it started from this automation that then led into a survey that then led into customer feedback, and it worked really, really well. And then another one was like, we've sold expensive strollers, like really expensive strollers through automations. Mm-hmm. And that was really cool because we were working out where people wanted to talk to, like, the owners of the business. Like we would move that email around the automation.
How would you do that?
So what we'd do is we worked out, like, when people, like, looking at all the open rates, looking at all the interaction, looking at what links they were clicking. Yeah. And we looked at, like, actually, gosh, they just want to talk to someone really early on. So mm-hmm. we moved it, like, we thought like it would be near the end, but we actually ended up moving it to the second email, and that's where it worked the best. Mm-hmm. And so just moving things around, like I still do this actually. I print my automations out mm-hmm. and have them on the wall, and then I start moving them around. Like, because I can see, like, okay, well, that one's got a really good open rate, a terrible click rate. Okay, well, let's move this. So I start working out, and the only way to do that, really, I find, is to actually print them out. And that actually keeps your automations a bit shorter too. And the other one was, like, we did one for Biz Rewards where that automation went over almost 2 years in total. Mm-hmm. But and we actually did another one for little ones that went over 2 years. But what that was doing was, once you signed up for Biz Rewards, you went into this whole automation that prompted you to use your card.
That lasted for 2 years?
Yeah, the first part of it lasted for 12 months, and then it was some other stuff after that as well. Yeah. I don't really, like, the one for little ones was 2 years. Like, they had so much, that was insane.
Yeah. How many emails was that? Like over 100?
Oh yeah. Like, I think it was near 100 I was just talking to Luke this morning, actually. Could have asked him.
I always get kind of nervous about those really big ones, because if there's like one small graphic change or one little thing, if it's not like a universal block in the email, it can just be a total nightmare updating everything.
Yeah, I used to set up a lot of dynamic content for that as well. So with tags, right. So then you can just change it and it changes automatically, right? Yeah,
it changes everything.
Yeah. But the thing about automations is that I feel like you need to always be testing, keeping an eye on them, and they have to be really relevant to who you're talking to. And I find a lot of people just set up automations for the sake of it, and you might not need to. Like, you might just need to have a really short one. I dissected Brooke Lennon's welcome series. It's about like 7 emails, and I think it came down to the biggest thing you have to do, I feel, is say who you are. Or no, so they sign up for your newsletter, right? Or they sign up for the offer. So you remind them about the offer, and you welcome aboard. Welcome, in case you forgot, here's your thing. Like, use welcome 20 or welcome 10 at checkout, right?
Sure.
Or click this link and it's automatically applied. So I think then what you do is you go, after that, you say who we are. Like, you say hi. And I think one thing with small businesses, or businesses like B2B that have sales reps, you can introduce their sales rep in that next email, right? Book a call, whatever. Like, you can do that kind of thing. Then the next one, it might be your values. The next one might be what to expect when you use our services. So there's about 7 different emails you can mix and match in that automation to actually like give someone, like, by the time they've got it, man, they really know you quite well, and they're more willing to, get them to sign up for your Instagram and your socials and all that kind of stuff. So I find out that most people don't even have a welcome email, and they're just missing out on so much,
And it's so important to build that early engagement with the email as well, just from a deliverability perspective as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a key opportunity.
And I think, like, maybe we need to part 2 where we talk about subscriptions and things like that.
I would actually really like to. That's actually something because I've got a few clients on board now that are just, we're trying to, pitch products that have a one-off aspect and a subscription aspect as well. And, there's ways that we can definitely automate the process of like a classic upsell or something like that. But let's do a part 2, I think. I think that's definitely in the old works.
Yeah. Well, hey, look, thank you for asking me. I've really enjoyed this because I like asking, email marketing, if you don't know who I am, like, you can go, if you're in New Zealand, you can go and find my workshops on Digital Boost, or if you're overseas, you can go to my Mailchimp masterclass that I did. There's lots of me out there. But I love email marketing, right? And I like talking about it. So, and it's great to see, people like you, Gavin, coming along and taking it seriously. It's really good to see.
It's there's a lot of dirty agencies out there, but I think that's just like a nice point of difference, just being able to not be shit, which is says a lot about the space. But
it's true. But look, before we go, I'm sure you're going to ask me, is there anything I want to mention? What I really want to mention, it's actually off the back of your word then, is the thing I'm most excited about right now is my swearing project. Okay. So, because I'm setting up some automations around that, right? But the swearing project for me changed a lot of my relationships, because sometimes you can't do the pause, and the pause is when you just react. And it's very interesting that a lot of people do this in emails to each other, and they do it in Twitter and social and all that kind of stuff, right? If it might not be a swear word, but that pause, like that counting to 10 and all that, never worked for me, right? But having to say something else apart from a swear word, like, really got that pause for me. And I'm surprised these days, 6 months down the track or so, how often I will delete, even more than I used to. I will delete stuff before I post it. And I find that really fascinating. Like, so anyway, I'll be kicking that off soon. It's on all my profiles, but it's like, I think the swearing project is going to be really interesting.
We'll keen to hear about it. Now, we'll chuck links to your website, your LinkedIn, all that good stuff.
Cool, man.
And mate, thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, dude. Great to see you, man.